All right, guys. Well, hey, welcome to AccuLynx's monthly webinar. My name is Matt Morrison, and I am one of the trainers here at AccuLynx. And I'm so thankful that you're taking some time out of your day to hang out with me and maybe see a little bit about what we got going on, some of the ideas that we've got, and hopefully, really, our goal here is to give you something that you can take back to your company and maybe see have some action items that you can kind of take back and actually see some direct benefit of participating in this call today. So today's topic is going to be 5 winning strategies to speed up your sales process. You know, look, we deal with thousands of contractors a year in training and sales and everything else, and so we've got some really good insights into what some people are doing really well, or maybe what some common areas that contractors struggle in that we feel we can provide some help, some assistance, give you some ideas on. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. For those of you who may not know a whole lot about AccuLynx or who we are the leading software provider for the residential roofing market out there. We were the first software that was exclusively developed just for roofing contractors, starting all the way back in 2008, when we realized there was a pretty significant gap, I guess, in the market that wasn't really servicing the contracting world. I mean, CRMs and systems like that had been around for a long time for many other sales organizations, but nothing that was really geared specifically around contracting. You may have seen our name in a number of different suppliers and manufacturers, catalogs, websites, some of the events and things that they put on, and that's because we are the preferred software vendor for many of those companies. So we specifically have an integration with ABC Supply, but then also many product manufacturers and other companies like that out there have recognized AccuLynx's place in the market and have come alongside of us with that. And at this point, thousands of contractors using AccuLynx every single day. It's been a great opportunity for all of us to really be able to reach out there and help this, what was originally a very untapped market, but we're still some of the biggest people out there doing this right now. So what are some common inefficiencies in the field, some common areas that we've found over the years that pretty much, whether you're on the coast, you're in the Midwest, you do residential, you do commercial, you do insurance, you do retail work, it doesn't seem to matter. Everybody has some of these very common inefficiencies. Things like, and a lot of them center around paper, right? Because for years, I mean, for decades, centuries even, right? Roofers have worked with paper folders, right? Right now, you can probably reach out and touch a stack of paper on your desk, right? And paper certainly carries with it some significant benefits, right? It's very helpful to the person that's holding the piece of paper in their hand, who has it sitting on their desk. But if you're in the field and the folder is in the office, you now have a significant inability there. You cannot see what's on that paper, not without calling or texting or emailing or driving back to the office to pick that piece of paper up. And then, of course, you take it with you, but now the office doesn't have access to that paper. And so there's a lot of inefficiencies that come with paper. It's great for the guy that has it, not so great for the person that doesn't. And so, you know, digging through folders, trying to find paper, and then God forbid somebody accidentally slips that invoice or that estimate or that contract or whatever into the wrong folder because they're all stacked up, and now nobody will ever find that thing ever again, right? Filling out paperwork over and over and over again. We had one customer one time that told us that prior to using AccuLynx, they had 7 different pieces of paper that they would fill out over the course of a job file or a job's life cycle in their process. 7 pieces of paper they'd fill out with same information every single time: name, address, phone number, whatever, for the customer. And this is a lot of time spent just filling out paperwork by hand, right? You got a backlog of data entry once you get back in the office because you got to scribble all this stuff down and fill it all out and give it to the different people. Multiple data points, right? We all kind of try to come up with a system that works for us, but a lot of times we have we're going to use this system. We use our Gmail for email, and then we have texts, and then we have voicemails, and then we have maybe scribbled pads, and then we've got, all these other different ways of finding information, and each one of them on their own aren't bad, but the problem is you wind up with a really disjointed story about the job that can be very difficult to tell actually what's going on out there. And then, of course, you've got time wasted spent driving around town, right? Trying to get signatures, trying to meet up with people, trying to pass something off, pick something up. Again, a lot of this is beholden to, or a lot of this centers around the problem that comes with paper, right? Because paper is a very manual operation. And for decades, that's been the way of business. That's been the way that you did things. But technologies have changed, right? We have smartphones now. We have computers now. We have this little thing called the internet now. And those things give us a lot greater tools and abilities than we ever had using just piles of paper, right? So what we want to do is kind of give you 5 ideas to speed up your process, maybe make things a bit more efficient, a little bit simpler, hopefully a little bit easier in your organization. Cut down maybe on some of the drama that can sometimes crop up, especially in the busy seasons here. So the first one, and this seems like a bit of a no-brainer, right? And I guess it kind of is, but have a process in place, right? I have found so many companies out there, their process involves, well, just go out there and sign stuff and we'll figure it out later, right? Or maybe in some people's heads, they've got a good idea. Maybe your office manager, your sales manager has a good idea of what they want, but they don't accurately pass that information on to everybody else in the organization. Or worse yet, each different department has their own goal, right? The sales team has a goal of driving sales and turning paperwork in and whatever, but the office team, the production team, the accounting team, they've got different goals. They want more accurate paperwork, or they want to be able to track things or run reports and whatever. And if you don't have everybody in your company on the same page, that can lead to a lot of drama and infighting, right? As different people have different goals, and there's not one central defined process and goal for that process for the entire company. So it's well worth your time. Even if you say you don't have time, you're too busy, we got to get out there and do stuff, it is well worth investing the time today to sit down and hammer out what exactly are our company goals and how do each of the individual teams' goals match up with that company goal, and then what's the process that we're going to put into place to ensure that those goals are met. Look, those processes can change over time as we discover new aspects about how we do things, and maybe market conditions change or team members rotate out or move up or whatever. But at the end of the day, we want to make sure that as a company we have a guiding light, a North Star, if you will, that we're working to. So have a process, step by step, track what's going on there, right? Train new people and current people on what's going on, especially, this is coming into spring and summer and busy seasons are kicking off all over the country. Make sure that you train your people, especially if you're changing some of your processes up from the way that you guys did things last year, bringing new ideas in, new software, new tools, whatever. Make sure you train everybody up there. Try to avoid delegating everything to 1 or 2 people. I see this happen all the time where I call up, I'm talking to people, I'm like, so what do you do? Oh, I do this, and 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 this. I'm like, well, what the heck does anybody else do? And then, of course, they just kind of chuckle, because you look at when someone sits down and says what they actually do, the sales guys are out selling, and then there's one person in the office that's somehow responsible for production and AR and calls and appointments and lead generation and payroll and then commissions and everything else. And you can start to see how, you're delegating everything to one person. That can easily burn people out and certainly just make it very difficult for efficient, smooth running operations. So don't be afraid to delegate those things out, and ensure that your technology is working for everybody. Get your stakeholders involved with this. This is not just a matter of the office telling the field what to do, or the field telling the office what they will or won't do. This is a team effort. So make sure that you are coming together and having stakeholders from different departments all a part of this process as you roll it out to your team. Don't be afraid to take advantage of automation. Again, with the power of smartphones and applications and the internet and whatever, there's a lot of cool tools that are out there. Things like being able to create templates so that everyone starts at kind of a same place. And you can very quickly kind of come up with maybe a template for an estimate or an order or a proposal or something like that that is kind of set up at the company level, and then the end user, your sales team, your estimating team, your field team, just kind of uses one of these templates, and that'll streamline things and ensure consistency across across the entire experience that a customer may have with your company. Many software systems out there allow you to import measurements, like from EagleView, SkyMeasure, things like that, where you can import those measurements into the software and then utilize those tools there as well to quickly generate material orders, estimates, proposals, things like that. And then also, if you can pre-assemble stuff, put things together so that there's less thinking, there's less individual paperwork. If you can lump everything together into one kind of cohesive area so that so when somebody needs it, they just pull one packet, one chunk, they load one file, and everything that they need is there. Those little things like that can eliminate a lot of double entry and can speed up the process. And of course, also ensure less mistakes are made, that somebody doesn't forget something important during the course of the hustle and bustle of trying to make a deal happen, right? Consider using e-signatures, right? This is another technology that's, if you've bought a house in the last 5, 10 years, done any legal documents, maybe even some medical things, you've probably done some kind of an online or an electronic signature. And it used to be something that was relegated just to really, high-end, top-dollar companies, but, big, massive organizations out there, right? But in the last few years, that's really become more and more available to the common man, as it were, right? Where you've got tools out there that allow you to collect signatures digitally, either on a screen like an iPad, or through email if you're across town. AccuLynx has a feature like that. And I know we've got one customer in Atlanta. If you've ever been into Atlanta, you know that traffic jams are just a fact of life down there. And so they started using the electronic signatures to allow them to fill out contracts, or just if they had, a couple $100 in rotten wood, they would send a change order over to the customer electronically and save a guy from having to drive 2-3 hours across town and getting stuck in traffic. So, electronic signature is a great way to deal with people that are cross-country and kind of FedExing things back and forth and whatever, like I used to do. It can be a great way for things like change orders, contracts. It also just creates a very professional, high-tech experience that a lot of contractors aren't using these days, or at least not using well. So it creates a little bit of a differentiating factor of the end experience that customer has with your company versus some guy that's walking into their dining room table with a stack full of papers. Understand your business's performance, right? Putting all of this information in, doing all this work is great. Driving sales is great. Having a process is great and everything. But if you can't report on that, if you can't pull that information back in and actually track how your company is performing, or even how individual teams or the members of those teams are performing, then it can be very tricky to know exactly what you're doing, maybe where you're struggling, or maybe where you're succeeding out there, right? Having reports to be able to understand exactly what's going on in your company is critical to that. You know the old saying that we see progress in the things in which we track, right? So if you want to increase your running speed, if you want to increase the amount of weight you can lift, or maybe you want to drop some weight, right? You don't just do that and just not go on the scale and look at what your weight looks like, or not keep track of the weights that you lifted this week or the reps that you pushed or whatever it is, right? You write those things down so you can track, so you can see that progress. And so the same idea is here. Set key performance indicators for your team that you can run those reports off of, right? So now I can say, I need these numbers to be here, and have the ability to run reports to pull those numbers in. And then make sure that you keep your teams updated on what their performance is, right? If it's a top-down thing, like from an owner down, or even individual team leaders are running reports and staying on top of that, but make sure that your people know how they're stacking up and maybe where they need to improve, or what they're doing really, really well as well. This doesn't always need to be a negative thing. If someone's kicking butt, let them know they're kicking butt. And then don't forget, obviously, the old saying, there's an app for that, right? That's the old iTunes saying. There's an app for that out there, right? There are tons of apps out there that you can utilize to help you kind of create one cohesive system. For instance, there's lead canvassing tools out there. Spotio and Sales Rabbit make some fantastic tools, or maybe some other ones out there as well, that can help you manage canvassing, right? If you're running large teams that are out there knocking doors, trying to generate business, by beating the streets, as it were. You got some cool apps out there that can help you manage that and cordon areas off and keep track of how those teams are performing there. You can assign leads by location, right? So if you've got a system that lets you know where your people are working at, and then when a lead comes in, you know how to assign them so that you've got people working in different areas, regions, or whatever. You may have the ability for notifications. Take a moment to go into the notifications menu on your smart device, your iPhone, your Android, and curate that so that you're not getting inundated with notifications from things that don't matter. And like I know right now, I got this app. I downloaded it a few months ago. I thought it was going to be cool. It just didn't really be all that great. And somehow during the course of the setup, I said it could send me push notifications. And every night at 9 p.m. it sends me this notification. And I swear I have never cared about that notification. But every night at 9, I'll get this little alert in my phone. I'm like, oh, there's that app again. And I just probably should just go in there and curate that, because that's just noise. It's just distracting, right? Make sure you curate your notifications so that you're getting what's important to you and not what's not. Okay, you encourage the use of apps that make the time spent in the field more efficient. So if you've got a tool that's going to help you measure jobs faster, annotate information faster, share data back and forth faster, or whatever, make sure that your team is using that. And if you found something that seems to work really well for the process that we defined a few steps ago, tell your team about that. Don't just let everybody be a lone wolf out there. Maybe even make that part of the the onboarding process of a new hire. Hey, make sure you download this and that and the other app, right? And then lastly is document scanning apps, right? That's a really huge thing, right? A lot of times, there's still going to be some physical paper many times involved with a job, especially if you're doing, insurance restoration work. You got lots of paper that's collected from the insurance carriers and things along those lines. And so the ability to scan paper that and then turn that in without having to go back to the office and hand it off to somebody to scan or have the sales guy scan it. You can scan things with your phone. I've used one for years called CAM Scanner, CAM Scanner. But that's just one that I found is very useful. There's a lot of other ones out there, and they all do more or less the same thing. They let you take a picture, and then it converts it to a PDF. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into AccuLynx. I want to show you a couple of ways that some of these practices that we've talked about can actually be utilized, or you can see benefits of with AccuLynx here. I want to kind of toot my own horn a little bit and see if you kind of see some ideas that you might be interested to learn a little bit more about.